What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a very special episode of Renegade Marquee on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host this evening. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Tommy.
Greetings, Captain, and you, the listener, whenever you are listening to us on this glorious occasion. It is a wonderful moment to record an episode being amongst incredible individuals on a wonderful, wonderful day.
Indeed. We have a very special guest for you tonight. You have seen her on Collider Video. You have seen her on movie screens across the nation. Please welcome the amazing Perri Nemiroff.
Hello, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. So this episode is a mid-year review of 2023 in film, everything from January up until, honestly, this weekend. At the end of the episode, we'll present our top 3 films to the podium. But before that, I just want to get a general feel for how everyone's been enjoying this year so far. So, Perri, I'll start with you. What have you thought of 2023 so far?
That's a complicated question to answer right now because of what's going on in the industry. So I don't really have the best vibes because of all of the strikes happening now. I would like that to be cleared up and for people to be paid fairly for their work, but just limiting it to the movies that have already come out. I am a pretty damn happy movie lover right now. I love all genres. You guys well know my favorite genre is horror, and that particular genre is just thriving in 2023.
Oh, yes, indeed. And yes, I do want to make this perfectly clear that we at Renegade Pop Culture stand with the writers and the actors who are fighting hard for everything that they rightfully deserve. Tommy, I'll go to you next. Your general thoughts on 2023 so far?
100%. I do stand with both the writers and the actors. Why can't everybody just be paid fairly, and so we can move forward and get back to the reasons why we are all a part of this industry in the first place? As far as what we've gotten so far, the thing that speaks to me the most is just how movies this year have done that. They've been able to speak to me in more ways than one. The experience of getting back into going to the movies and enjoying just being in that seat, seeing movies, just as Nicole Kidman described in the AMC promotional campaign. It's just the way each movie, in some way, shape, or form, I've seen has spoken to me is what really stood out to me the most, and reminding me why I love this industry in the first place and going to the movies.
I think the perfect example of just how great the concept of movie theaters has been is the weekend of Barbie and Oppenheimer. Seeing like the front lobby just completely packed with people, to the point that if you want to get a good seat and get all your concessions, you really do have to get to the theater no less than 30 minutes before showtime. That's just a really beautiful thing to see, that to put it bluntly, the movies are back, and I'd say every single genre has really brought their A game this year, but I would probably give a special shout out to both horror and, even though it's not really a genre, animation this year has really been killing it.
Mm-hmm. That's true. One of the cool things about Barbie and Oppenheimer right now also is the fact that one of them isn't really taking money or movie goers from the others. It's like an all ships rise type of thing where they're both thriving alongside one another. And when something like that happens, it makes me very happy.
Agreed.
A celebration of the craft at a time when it needs it most. And there's really nothing else like it.
Which is why it frustrates me so much that studios are not really understanding this concept, and they seem to be ignoring the success of Barbenheimer because they still insist on letting their films get delayed and letting like their talent go without the things that they deserve. But now I want to get into a bit more specifics, like favorite moments that really stood out this year. Tommy, what about? I'll start with you. Are there like particular moments in film that you think you'll remember for a long time?
Well, there's a story construction standpoint, and then, as I said earlier, the experience. So sticking with story construction, when I sit at the movies this year, I've been seeing these phenomenal stories, but something that reminded me of how they spoke to me circles back to the 24th weekend of the calendar year and how that particular weekend holds a special place in the art of motion pictures. Generational superhero staples helped make that weekend special, causing the nostalgia to hit home for the viewer when reminiscing on their legacy in their respective pop culture upbringing. Enthralled, the viewer is reminded throughout the experience why this type of release matters to them. And I thought of this when I was watching The Flash in IMAX. And Christina Hodson's screenplay is what steals the show. While the sound editing itself, as I mentioned in my review, is nomination worthy, some viewers may feel as if they've been through that type of story before. And the simplest displays of connection and power of self-reflection serve reminder that everything happens for a reason. It's the type of story that one could really watch and learn from in that respect. And it reminded me of a lot of sentiments of writers Russell T Davies and Chris Chibnall and what they brought as showrunners to Doctor Who, and how crossing through established events is forbidden, and how if one is not careful, the individual themselves could have the power to be their own worst enemy. So the sentimental element and how story impact can really speak to them is one of many movie moments, I should say, that have spoken to me so far in 2023.
That is honestly a really good one. Perri, what about you? Is there one particular movie moment that stood out to you?
There are many moments that stood out to me, just because it's freshest on my mind because it hit theaters this particular weekend. I'll say Talk to Me, because one of my absolute favorite things about going to a film festival like Sundance, where you're seeing a whole bunch of movies that no one has seen before, they're making their world premiere. Some of the movies there don't even have distribution yet. You get the opportunity to find hidden gems before anybody else sees them, before they get in front of the widest possible audience. And I was lucky enough to be one of the first to see Talk to Me, and just immediately knew that catchy concept was indeed going to catch on and wind up being a major crowd pleaser in the horror genre. And it was just the ultimate treat to have that experience at Sundance, to be able to follow the movie to South by Southwest and then to Comic-Con. And now it's getting a very warm reception in the States upon release. And I could not be happier for that filmmaking team.
Yeah, me neither. They really impressed me coming from like the world of YouTube and making like a powerful impression with their directorial debut. I can't wait to see what they do next. As far as the movie moment that really stands out to me, it's probably, wow, there are many moments from Across the Spider-Verse that stand out, but it's the stuff with Gwen and her father. I think that really impacted me the most. Like every single time I've seen that movie, it's those scenes that everything from like the art style, the colors, the lighting, and just the performances from Shea Whigham and Haley Steinfeld they're just so heartbreaking, but very satisfying by the time we get to the end. There's one topic I remember I don't remember like getting as much attention in last year's FYC, and that's Best Original Song. And I think this year the competition has gotten pretty fierce, and we're still barely halfway through the year.
100%. And it's so impactful. It's the easiest way when one can look at at particular selections of music written specifically for the screen, and how these are properly promoted. Like you can see these particular selections on, as if you were in a store back in the day, in a music store, or even a Blockbuster, rest in peace, and see on these screens, like you see the latest releases, and then the music videos itself. It takes you back to that era of time. It's wonderful.
Oh, certainly. Perry, is there a song that you would like to see performed that night on the Oscars?
The song, I mean, this is the obvious choice, and I do think it's going to have a very good shot of winning this award. The Billie Eilish song in Barbie is pretty incredible, and it's one of those songs that, in addition to fitting quite well with the movie itself, is quite popular beyond the film. And I just have a feeling that 1-2 punch of popularity is going to wind up getting it the nomination. But we also still have a couple of other films this year that could probably break into that category that haven't come out. I'm really curious to see how The Color Purple turned out, and if that one winds up getting a slot here. And then also a movie that I saw at Sundance with phenomenal music, Flora and Son, the new John Carney movie. So if you know any of his work, you know that it is one to pay attention to in the song department.
Oh, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Flora and Son. For those who don't know, Sing Street was probably the movie that, well, I never got a chance to see it in theaters. I probably watched that like the most as soon as it came on VOD. Like I pretty much spent the entire end of the summer like having that on loop. So yeah, you bet I'm excited for Flora and Son.
I still listen to the Sing Street soundtrack all the time.
Same.
Drive It Like You Stole It, one of the best songs. Even at the end of it, one of Adam Levine's underrated pieces of work, and Go Now, is just phenomenal.
Oh yeah. But speaking of Barbie, I think I speak for most people who would just be thrilled to see Ryan Gosling performing Just Ken.
I don't think anyone would argue with that. If we're talking about things that will boost the ratings, that will go on the list.
That or Jack Black performing Peaches from the Super Mario Brothers movie.
That as well. There's a bunch of big names doing original songs this year. That could be quite the lineup for live performances on the telecast.
Took the words right out of my mouth. That would be, I mean, Peaches, just the hilariousness. I was working Connecticut this past weekend, and there were several moments or segments that featured that song in general, and that taking it back to that pop culture reference. It's just really, you really feel just the impact of that type of music and boosting the ratings. I mean, to be fair, the past couple of years have always been soft spots in my heart for particular pieces of music. But if I could make one case, it's got a long shot with the success of Peaches and the Barbie songs, but I would make a big case, just as to quote your words, Perry, the nomination itself being the win would be an original song resembling a perfect fit in combining its promotional story through lyrics and music video. And that's Demi Lovato and Mike Shinoda's Still Alive from Scream 6.
Hard to disagree with that. Tommy and I were talking off air, and I had two songs that, like you said, the nomination is the win. One diegetic and one non-diegetic, and my two choices were Just Ken and Still Alive.
100%. It's just that feeling that's the pure essence of, and not only just as good of a song as it is, when you look back and listen to that song right as we enter the end credits of Scream 6, it reminds you of what these characters have gone through, specifically in the case of Sam and her journey and where it's gotten to up to that point. You really take in a deep breath and live that experience in that one moment.
Perry, I have to ask, on a scale from 1 to 10, how thrilled would you be if Still Alive actually landed a nomination.
I would obviously be thrilled. Anything that pertains to the Scream franchise that gets award season love would make me pretty happy. If I'm being realistic about it, though, I do not have a good feeling about seeing that one pop up on the list. But in my heart, it is deserving, and I listen to that one quite a bit in my free time.
Nice. Since we're sticking with vague award season talk, there are two categories that I feel it's about damn time they be included. One is best casting director, and the other is best stunt performance. We'll start with the casting director first, because this year we've seen some spot on casting, whether it's live action roles or voiceover performances. So, Perri, I have to ask, are there any performances that you think just completely understood the assignment?
In terms of the ensemble as a whole, you mean?
Ensemble or individual?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's tons of great performances. I could go on and on about that. I think Alyssa Sutherland is one of the best Deadites we've ever seen in Evil Dead Rise, because we just brought up Talk to Me. I think Joe Bird in particular as Riley is phenomenal in the film. Wait until you see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, if we're going to talk about animated performances, because the kids who play the four turtles are absolutely perfect. One of my favorite performances out of Sundance this year was Gael Garcia Bernal for the movie Cassandra, which I believe is coming on Prime Video in September. And then another performance that I love that I do think might have a chance of getting an Oscar nomination is Viola Davis in Air. She's phenomenal. Oh, and here's another one that I think has a real chance of getting some acting nominations, Past Lives. All three of the actors in that main ensemble are doing next level work.
Oh yeah. Great choices. Tommy, I'm gonna throw this question to you, and while you're talking, I'm gonna look up the name of the casting director for Barbie, because yeah, they deserve a lot of credit.
100%. And I'm also looking forward to, ever since you raved about Cassandra at Sundance period, I've been waiting patiently to see when is this going to come out so I can finally see it. So I'm really looking forward to that release as well. I would say from an animation side, I would say the voice work in Suzume, I would say is one that really sticks out to me on that level specifically. I stand corrected. I would say I'll throw that in there. We'll also go into the entire voice, the selection of the voices behind the Super Mario Brothers movie and the build up to that. To me, is what really they like, for all the build up and nonsensical controversy that went behind. Like, people think, oh, it's not the original Mario. Chris Pratt took it and made it his own. And I think that, and not only that, but the entire cast as a whole, and of course, Jack Black, enough said. But going back to, and I'll piggyback off of this because there's one release in particular that I don't want to get into full on that is the leading contender for award season that I feel, and I'll get to that because it's one of my podium recipients. So I'll save that for that particular point. But I think that's pretty much it on that front that I can think of off the top of my head.
So I have the names of the two casting directors for Barbie. It's Lucy Bevan and Allison Jones. And just looking at this cast list, it's just incredible. Obviously, Ryan Gosling is like the name right now for his performance as Ken, but you got Margot Robbie, Issa Rae, Kate McKinnon, Hari Nef, and the list just goes on. And of course, we can't have a conversation about casting without talking about Oppenheimer, but more on that one later. The other name as far as casting directors that we kind of have to talk about is Sarah Finn, who's been involved with the Marvel Cinematic Universe since probably at the very beginning. I think she is more than due for some sort of awards recognition for all of her work. And then the other category that needs to be included is best stunt work, which, if you're an action fan, then 2023 has had you fed. Wouldn't you guys agree?
If there was a stunt
100%.
award, all of the awards should go to Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Those stunts were mind-blowing, and it is something else to say that in that franchise, because how do they raise the bar any higher? But they seem to every single time.
That is just seeing that movie in IMAX by itself, just for the stunts, is worth the price of admission on its own. Absolutely phenomenal work. And why isn't there stunt work specifically? This movie is what it was made for. Categories like that were made for, and it could provide inspiration to go above and beyond in that format.
It's that, and also the John Wick franchise, which for a while, John Wick Chapter 4 was my number one movie of the year, just because, like, I've said in previous podcasts that movie didn't just have action scenes; it had action suites where they had they had so many different varieties of action sequences, different car chases, different hand-to-hand combat. They packed a lot in a nearly 3-hour film, and seriously, that there needs to be some sort of award recognition for that, and just stunts in general.
There should also be more box office success for a movie that good, but there's only so much we could do about that part of it.
Indeed. Anything else you guys want to bring up before we unveil the podium?
Oh, I am very eager to unveil the podium right now. I'm quite excited about the titles I have.
Awesome. Now I'm going to start with a couple honorable mentions, ones that didn't quite crack the top 3, but are just titles that I'm sort of begging the world to see. Starting with Nimona, which is currently streaming on Netflix. This is a movie that's been in development for quite a while at Blue Sky Studio before Disney unfortunately shut down their doors back in 2021. But it's found new life thanks to the people at Annapurna and Netflix, and it is just an unapologetically anarchic, awesome, gorgeously animated film that really gets into fantastic LGBTQ representation and just themes of taking down corrupt institutions. It's one of those movies that I would highly recommend. And then some others are Asteroid City. I think this is probably one of Wes Anderson's best movies since Moonrise Kingdom. And if you want just an absolute gut buster of a comedy, definitely check out Joyride. I wish this movie did better in theaters, but hopefully it finds its audience someday. Tommy, do you have any honorable mentions before we unveil the podium?
I do. I've got a few. Let's see here. Going over my notes. In alphabetical order, the only reason I'm going in alphabetical order with this one. Charles R., The Making of a Monarch, which is a quick documentary for anyone looking to learn a quick insight to the recently crowned King of England. 80 for Brady, an original sports comedy centered around 4 friends in their 80s. Well, 3 friends, as one is 75. Their traditions, love for the New England Patriots, and their journey to Super Bowl 51. It is the type of 2023 release that could be seen as a motivational tool if one was preparing for the upcoming season of fantasy football. Rye Lane, a wonderfully welcome take on romantic comedy, exquisitely filmed from the perspective of the mindset opening up, the providence of a push from the most unlikely of places. A welcome story that fits brilliantly with the times. And be on the lookout as you watch it for a perfectly timed, uncredited cameo destined to catch the viewer by a welcome surprise. And Suzume, a story centered around the themes of acceptance, adventure, and rejection. I am so glad that this story was brought to my attention during the trailer reel when I attended MegaCon this past spring. It is a journey that someone somewhere out there needed to see.
Awesome. Perri, what about you? Do you have any honorable mentions to share?
That I do. I've already mentioned a couple of them, but these are movies that are so high up on my list. They will all be in contention for my top 10 of the year. I absolutely adored Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. I love the way that they captured those voice performances with mostly the 4 actors who played the Turtles doing their sessions together. makes their chemistry stronger than ever. I think the crosstalk really helps with the authenticity of that brotherly vibe they have, and the animation in that is just absolutely stellar looking. The detail and the texture and the fact that you could feel that every single stitch of that movie was made by people, by true artists. I love that movie. I'm also a very big fan of Rob Savage's The Boogeyman. I'm a big Stephen King reader, and I was always wondering how you would take that short story and turn it into a really solid feature. And I think he did it just the right way, where the short story is done justice in a single scene and then really beautifully expanded upon via a story of a family dealing with grief. Some of those scares are so wildly effective. Cassandro is another excellent one. I already brought that one up. You're going to be able to catch that on Prime Video really soon. It's another one with a phenomenal ensemble. The athleticism on display in that movie is something else. And the true story is also just hugely inspiring and something that more people should be aware of. Speaking of true stories, I also love Air quite a bit. It's one of the first movies this year that I walked out of and said to myself, watch out for that one. It could be a big Academy Awards contender. I don't know if I'm feeling as confident in that prediction anymore, just because it didn't seem like that movie made as much noise as it would need to in order to last all of these months into award season time, but we'll see. I'm rooting for it. And then another Sundance movie that was phenomenal was Past Lives. And that is one that I would watch out for. I'm hoping it breaks into the Oscar conversation, but in particular, the Independent Spirit Award should be an award show where that movie really thrives.
Nice. All right. So without further ado, it's time to unveil the podium. We will start with the bronze medal. Tommy, would you like to go first?
Absolutely, Captain. I will begin with my selection for my bronze medal recipient. When announcement teaser trailers are played at a movie theater, specifically over a year out from the project's scheduled date of release, the viewer gets an idea that, regardless of how the final product turns out, they are destined to be in the midst of something special. This was the case last summer, just before the lights fully dimmed for Nope. In the vein of a countdown, the world got its first glimpse of a biopic centered around the scientist whom Kai Bird and Martin J. Sherwin dubbed the American Prometheus, Oppenheimer. Now that Oppenheimer has been released, it serves as the epitome of a historic cinematic epic in the vein of a biopic. There is a reason as to why Christopher Nolan can be seen as rightfully placed alongside Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg on a Mount Rushmore of best directors of a generation. The spectacular celebration of the craft with the choice to film on film, combined with different color selections for the sake of orientation and character development, and pristine sound editing that flows through the viewer, is an experience unlike anything we have seen at the movies in 2023. Oppenheimer could now be seen as the leading contender for award season, specifically in the categories of Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor for Cillian Murphy, Best Supporting Actor for Robert Downey Jr., Best Adapted Screenplay by Christopher Nolan, based on the biographical novel American Prometheus, Best Original Score, Best Cinematography, Sound Editing, Production Design, and Costume Design. And backtracking to our conversation about Outstanding Direction and Casting, this was what I was alluding to and holding on to get to that moment. My God, that cast. Seeing so many recognizable faces from over the years being a part of this masterclass is just incredible. There are two reasons Oppenheimer, in my eyes, does not receive a perfect score. The first is due to noticeable usage of audio dialogue replacement in some shots. The second was the result of an editing showcase in a scene that sees a character undoing their bow tie in one shot before a cut to another character, then back to said character where their bow tie is made in full before a cut to another character, then back to said character where their bow tie is down once more. That said, seek Oppenheimer out in IMAX for the full experience. If you are fortunate, seek out the IMAX 70mm experience where you will be able to witness the movie as Christopher Nolan envisioned the final product to be seen. A generational cinematic experience. Oppenheimer, one of 2023's best films.
I will have more to add to that later, but Perri, what is your bronze medal recipient?
My bronze medal recipient, current number 3 of the year, is Talk to Me. Again, everyone knows I love horror movies. In particular, I tend to fall pretty hard for horror movies with a really catchy core concept, and that's what the embalmed hand in Talk to Me is. And I think it's brilliantly used as a highly entertaining, fun to watch horror movie device, where this whole idea of somebody being able to willingly become possessed via this hand is just pure genius. It makes the first half of the movie like a thrill to watch, to the point that you are sitting there wondering, would I do that myself? Would I hold the hand, say, talk to me, and let me in? But then I think it's the back half of the movie that really beefs up the thematic heft and the character arcs that you experience in the film. It's the complete package. It's a good time at the theater. It's a very successful, creepy concept, but it's also got some real heft and meaning to it. And also, because we've talked about casting directors, a phenomenal young ensemble. I've already mentioned Joe Bird, but Sophie Wilde as the lead is something else. And really, I can name drop every single cast member in that film, and they're delivering top-notch work. All names that, if you don't know them yet, I do have a good feeling you're bound to know them in the future. I am obsessed with this movie.
So Talk to Me sits just outside of the podium. It's my number 5 movie of the year, but honestly, I stand by everything you said, from the casting to the production design, all of the practical effects on display. It's one of those movies that I'm glad I finally got to see, and that probably won't be like the top movie of this weekend, but it's going to find its audience, and I have a feeling we're going to see more of this mythology in the future. But my number 3 is the thing is, any one of these movies could have been number 1 at one point or another, and the first one to really take that spot was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Obviously, if you know me, you know how much animation means to me, and while I wish the working conditions were, better than they apparently were during the making of this, that doesn't change the fact that this is still an incredible piece of just incredible work. Like the animation that began with Into the Spider-Verse has been taken up a notch. The story is just epic. The performances are phenomenal. This is just a movie that I just find incredibly special. So now we go to the silver medal recipient. Perri, do you want to give us your choice?
My silver medal number 2 choice is Evil Dead Rise. I've been rooting for director Lee Cronin ever since seeing his feature directorial debut at Sundance. And I watched that movie, The Hole in the Ground, and I see the signs of a very talented filmmaker, but I don't really think many people out there looked at The Hole in the Ground and said to themselves, that director would be a great fit for the Evil Dead franchise. They're 2 completely different forms of horror, but now when you pair Hole in the Ground with Evil Dead Rise, it is abundantly clear that Lee Cronin is capable of anything. He basically hits that magical sweet spot in the continuation of any franchise where he does the previous films justice and has little nods to each of them, which is an achievement because every single Evil Dead film in that film franchise, and also including the series that I love so much, Ash vs. Evil Dead, they're all slightly different, and he manages to capture qualities of each and every single one of them, but while also making Evil Dead Rise feel uniquely his own. And there aren't very many filmmakers capable of doing all of that at once, but he excels in that respect quite a bit. And the movie is just a bloody, gory blast. Talk about really expertly crafted, over-the-top kill scenes with some of the most violent deaths imaginable and so much blood and just so much creativity. That movie delighted me to no end. I have watched it more times than I can count this year, and I will continue to watch it again and again.
Nice. Tommy, who is your silver medal recipient?
When I thought of my selection for the silver medal recipient, it came to me in the same mannerism on how this particular selection came to me. Sometimes a movie may come to an individual when they least expect it. They see the imagery on what could be the feature's home media case or the description from an on-demand library or streaming service. Their curiosity peaks, they rent the feature, they press play, and they begin their viewing. During their viewing, they realize there was a reason they selected this particular feature. They are not only learning from the experience, but realize it as being there for them when they least expect it. Sam Now. Reed Harkness constructed this coming-of-age documentary that followed himself and his half-brother Sam Harkness in a journey to discover what and why a specific moment transpired during their upbringing, along with the effects of that moment and how all parties involved evolved over a period of time. That is pretty much all I want to say, as I feel expressing any further sentiments or plot points could ultimately deter the viewer's experience of Sam Now, where they would be unable to capture the documentary's full weight and pull. I feel that it's best going into the film knowing as little as possible, though it would be unfair if I didn't provide a proper disclaimer saying that while I recommend it, some of the subject matter may not be suitable for all viewers. That said, the documentary is available now on pbs.org under their Independent Lens section and PBS Passport. Please see this while you can. It is an experience that floored me.
Wow, that sounds like a real winner. My silver medal recipient is Past Lives. It's probably the most minimalist movie on this list, but it's just one of those that just cut deep emotionally. It's a pretty simple story, but very very engaging with these two performances and just the overall experiences that these characters share. And we were talking about directorial debuts. I think Celine Song has a very bright future ahead of her. If this is how she's starting her film career, I can't wait to see where she goes from here. And now it's time for that gold medal recipient. So Perri, what do you got?
Mine's pretty obvious. Mine has to be Scream 6. That is my favorite film franchise of all time. And now not only has Radio Silence given me one stellar new installment to my favorite franchise, but they have given me two. And somehow, like, as much as I love Scream 5, I am currently ranking Scream 6 above Scream 5 for a number of reasons. Like, in particular, Scream 6 has one of my favorite Scream attack sequences of the entire franchise. It's the Gale versus Ghostface attack, which I think is just like A+ action and intensity and performance work across the board. But one of the other reasons why I have Scream 6 ranked so highly, obviously for my favorite films of 2023, but also within my favorite film franchise ever, is because of the core four. We're always talking about this when we're discussing the continuation of long-running horror franchises, that eventually you hit the point where you want to have a passing of the torch to a younger generation. And very few film franchises can do it. Very few film franchises can get the hardcore fans to, start to let go of the original main characters in favor of newcomers. But Scream 6 marks the point that they did it. I think they started to do it in Scream 5, but with the establishment of the core four in Scream 6, I can confidently say that while I love Scream's big three more than anything in the world, I feel quite confident going into the future of Scream with the core four leading the way. That doesn't necessarily close the door to certain returns, but I think I have hit the point where I love the core four just as much as some of my favorite Scream characters from the past films. And that is just like, I don't know, that's one of the biggest accomplishments in my book.
Oh, certainly. Tommy, your gold recipient?
All right. The gold medal. Earlier in the show, I talked about how specific storytelling has the power to speak to the viewer. A special feeling felt from within. A feeling that could come through one of many different outlets. A scene from a movie, a song on the radio, the words of a writer, the competitiveness of an athlete, or the performance of a stage actor. For Sonny Vaccaro, it was through witnessing a television commercial centered around a catered tennis racket He realized everything his employer, Nike Incorporated, was doing wrong. Nike's competition, Converse and Adidas, were ahead in sales by a percentage difference as much as 110.5%. Nike needed a new strategy to make them stand out, and picking random NCAA Division I basketball prospects was not convenient. Thinking back on the aforementioned tennis racket commercial, Vigaro viewed a playback cassette of the 1982 NCAA Division I men's basketball championship game. Witnessing the performance of a freshman player, he felt something special. It inspired Vaccaro to pitch the athlete as the center focus of Nike's basketball division. Unprecedented at the time, it would go on to change the way apparel of any sort would be marketed. The player? North Carolina at guard 6'6", Michael Jordan. The movie? Air. Alex Converi's screenplay brilliantly allots the viewer to feel as if they are physically alongside these individuals in their respective journeys. The realism, highlighted from the simplest of conversations at a 7-Eleven between clerk and customer to a discussion centered around the true meaning of Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA, when Vaccaro shares a scene with Rob Strasser, played by Jason Bateman, in a career best performance. The viewer feels what's at risk for both individuals, yet it's not hammered down the viewer's throat in overly dramatic fashion. The delivery of simple explanation is all the viewer needs to understand the journey and its stakes. Further genius of Converi's screenplay comes at a moment where the viewer will feel content that the eventual pitch will go exactly according to plan, when a welcomed curveball highlights the importance of always having a plan B. The realism of Damon's delivery in that moment is what seals the deal. Ben Affleck's direction, combined with Robert Richardson's cinematography and William Goldenberg's editing, elevate this 1980s period piece not merely through its pop culture references and needle drops, but through the emotional impact of the simplest of significant moments. This is on full display during Nike's pitch to the Jordan family. The viewer becomes emotional as Michael picks up the Air Jordan prototype design for the first time. They feel the significance of that one moment, a significance of power they recognize as world-changing. If I were able to send a message to the powers that be at Amazon Studios, I would tell them to keep Air in their back pocket, create a campaign for awards consideration, and when the time is right, go all in. They have a winner on their hands, and if they play their cards right, the voters will hear them and this movie speak to them, just as Michael Jordan's talent spoke to Sonny Vaccaro and how the Air Jordan sneaker spoke to Michael.
Before I give my my gold medal recipient, I just want to point out that something I love about all of our lists is that for the most part, there's a nice healthy variety of genres represented, and for the most part, like we each had different choices in our top three, but that's about to change because my number one is Tommy's number three, and that's Oppenheimer. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that this might be Christopher Nolan's masterpiece. The film that, while he may have only discovered this idea recently, it feels like a movie that he's been like wanting to make for years. Like everything in his career has been building up to this incredible 3-hour epic that you wouldn't think would be as as impactful in terms of box office in the current landscape as it is now. But Nolan is just one of those directors that can pull off pretty much anything, and this movie kind of has it all. It has a little bit of horror during that scene in the gymnasium. It has phenomenal casting, excellent cinematography by Hoyt van Hoytema, and of course, like the score by Ludwig Göransson is probably one of his best of all time. Oppenheimer is definitely a film that you need to experience on the largest screen possible. So now before we wrap up, I do kind of want to throw one more question. Depending on what movies keep their release date, are there any titles in the second half of the year that you guys are looking forward to? Perry, I'll start with you.
The Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. That is the quickest answer I could give. I am obsessed with those books, and I also was very into the movies. I was a little worried about the idea of them doing a prequel story, especially after all Katniss fought for. Why would I want to go back and re-experience another Hunger Games? Then I actually read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and it is a damn good book, a really interesting story. And it's one of those things where if the movie is as good as it needs to be, it could wind up changing how you rewatch the other four Hunger Games movies. So I've got a lot of faith in that story and very, very high hopes for that film.
Yeah, I've only just recently seen that first full trailer, and yeah, my favorite of the movies is still Catching Fire, but this one looks like it has a lot of potential. Tommy, what about you?
Well, I'll also add that seeing the original Hunger Games opening night at Alamo Drafthouse West Lakes in San Antonio was an incredible experience in and of itself. That talking back earlier will also live with me forever. I would say that there are a lot of different. We are in for quite a year in regards to that aforementioned variety we were talking about earlier. But I mean, you've got Blue Beetle. I was supposed to see Mutant Mayhem on the morning of this recording, but I had a conflict that I didn't get to, but I look forward to seeing that later. And then of course you got Napoleon, Wonka, the creator, and right before when I saw Oppenheimer, I saw the trailer for the next Exorcist movie. That in and of itself, the moment I heard just the tidbit of the music, I knew exactly what it was, and I was hooked. So I'm looking forward to that, and of course Cassandra.
By the time this podcast is up, I will have seen Mutant Mayhem. So, but for the longest time, yeah, that one was up there as one of my most anticipated. The other ones are Dune Part 2, because I was just a huge fan of the first film, and I really can't wait to see what Denis Villeneuve was holding back in Part 1 and just chomping at the bit to release in Part 2. There's also Gareth Edwards' new film, The Creator, and sort of the end of Disney's 100-year celebration is their next animated feature, Wish, which looks just gorgeous with that 2D 3D hybrid art style, and also a return to a more traditional villain with Chris Pine playing this character. So yeah, 2023 I'm hoping ends on a high note, but that takes us to the end of this podcast. First of all, Perri, thank you for joining us. This was a lot of fun. Where can people find you online?
Thank you guys for having me. I am all over the place online. You can find me on Collider, on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. The list goes on. But go watch Collider Ladies Night.
Yes. And Tommy, where can everyone find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at T_Hughes35, YouTube, Instagram, Letterboxd, Linktree at the TMoney35. Be sure to follow me on my second Instagram dedicated to cooking at Cooking with T Money. As for my latest projects on my YouTube channel, you can check out my performance from earlier this month at White Rabbit Theater's variety fundraiser Saving for Rent, where I performed a number off Sir Paul McCartney's 2001 album Driving Rain. If you're listening to us in the Garden State of New Jersey, there's still time to pick up a copy of this month's edition of Denville Life, where I have 2 features written about Denville community media and the journey of New Jersey-born NASCAR driver Stephen Malozzi. At Last Word on Sports, you can check out my latest feature, lobbying for the ESPY Awards to consider motorsport teams for nomination of their biggest category, the recognition of Best Team. And I see him anxiously wanting to speak in the waiting area to give his take on a particular theory, but we ran out of time. So we apologize to Matt Donato. Stu is kaput.
All right. You guys can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Twitter at Ren Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube, on Podchaser, subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Marquee. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.